communications team of the New Patriotic Party on this issue. Welcome once again, and thank you very much for joining us. We'll dive right into it. We start with the issue of reshuffle, the president's response, the persistent calls. And we start with Mr. Segbefia. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Sena. Good morning to my co-panelists, and more importantly, or equally importantly, good morning to all the viewers out there. And we thank God for coming to another day in our very difficult country, Ghana. I think that the first thing I would say is that, yes, it is the prerogative of the president as to whether or who he decides his team should be made up of. However, it is also true that when you have a crisis, one of the means or ways in which many leaders in many countries demonstrate to their people that they mean business in dealing with solutions to whatever crisis or problem they have is to look at the team and reshuffle. And reshuffle has to be defined either in musical chairs, which some people is not what people are asking for. Musical chairs is keeping the same people there but putting them in different portfolios, or subsequently actually changing and bringing in fresh faces. And it is clear to some of us that, and the good majority of Ghanaians, that considering the crisis we are in, you really have to look at those that have taken us into the crisis and then reshuffle, change these individuals to give us hope that actually the steps you're going to be taking can be carried out, or you're serious about what you're doing. So in order to do that, or for me to talk about that, let's look at where we are. The government said they inherited an economy that was in difficulty. At the time, we were with the IMF. And they came and inherited us at the point where we were now finishing off the IMF program, and they could then get involved. At that time, even with the program, we were good enough to go on to the capital markets. Our rating was nowhere, and I'm talking now of the international ratings of S&P, Moody's, etc. Was in a shape where you were good enough to go and borrow money. Our inflation rate was in the lower teens. Our debt to GDP ratio was 60-something odd %. So all the macroeconomic indicators, which you said were not good, and therefore there should be a change of government, are at a far lower rate than you have now. Unemployment is the worst it has ever been for years. We are setting records this time. Then taking the famous words of His Excellency Mahmoud Bawumia, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. So let's not even begin to ponder what is the exchange rate of the dollar to the cedi. And we are 9.2 roughly, I'm told, as of Friday. And if you went to actually try and get it, if you could find it, you'll be paying through your nose beyond that 9.2. So that is just a paper exercise. Let's not talk of the pound sterling or euro. So we have crossed the 8 or broken the 8 on the dollar, on the pound, and therefore they have set records already in that regard when you look at exchange rates. So when you look at all these economic fundamentals, what they inherited, and where they are now, you have a group of people who touted that they had the men, and they were all named at one of their conferences with the vice president as the head of the economic management team. And if we are now at 30-something% inflation, you then have to ask yourself, the two reasons, main reasons being given, namely COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war, are they or can they be deemed to have gotten us to the 31%? And the only way to, I believe, to do a fair comparison is to look at us in regard to the rest of the world, because the COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war has affected, we like to say, everybody. Most people, different degrees. So why is ours so bad? Let's compare apples with apples. Let's take Africa. Why is our rate and our depreciation of our currency the worst in Africa and the second worst in the rest of the world? Why? This was an economy that was being touted as the best, or moving forward in leaps and bounds. Let's look at what they inherited. There was a sinking fund, Ghana Infrastructure Fund, ESLA. Common Fund was not in these arrears. District Assembly Common Fund was not in those arrears. You didn't have any of them amortized in terms of going for loans against them. Within 9 months of coming into office, you had 2 oil wells that came on stream. And the one which was having a problem with the valve also was sorted. You got COVID. So this person gave you 1 billion interest free. But by the time you take all that money together, you wonder what anybody has to show for it. And it is now stark and clear that a lot of money was used to win an election. It was used for electioneering, period. That is what the money was used for. And with all that going on, the major problem is that we were still borrowing. Now, what has the Russian-Ukraine COVID got to do with the level of borrowing we have? Our borrowing still keeps going. The only way to sustain it is to ensure that your revenue is increased. We all knew historically that our revenue has issues. So, as you are borrowing, you must always look at your revenue. Because no matter what your debt to GDP ratio is, if you can have the revenue base to pay it off, you are fine. But that is not the case. So, here is a situation where certain people put us in that position. And we are saying that we are sending the same people to now negotiate with the IMF who have come in, or we have invited in, to get us out of the mess. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. If we had gone to the IMF at the time when people had been shouting that where we are heading there's a problem, over a year ago, if we had gone, our macroeconomic figures would have given us a better negotiation position. We waited till last minute, 3 days even before we went. The finance minister was telling us that we are not going to IMF. 3 days, which shows that as far as he's concerned, and every opportunity he got to speak, he made it clear that he's not interested in going to the IMF. How is he now going to sit down at the table and negotiate with the IMF on our behalf? Why? There are serious issues about a company in which you are involved in as chair, or the one you founded, as having made huge amount of money through the euro market. All these issues exist. Why are we still having the same team of finance minister and deputy finance minister in that position to negotiate and take our country forward? And I understand President Nana Addo. Why? The finance minister is your cousin. A roads minister who says that, look, I've closed tolls without going through the right procedure and process, and we're going to use them for toilets, and gives you a statement for the president to read of how many 1,000 kilometers and what roads have been built. Meanwhile, all of us Ghanaians are in the town. We are driving on these roads. We can't see which roads you are talking about that have been built, to the extent to which you have said. That roads minister is there. Nobody has touched him. But he's also your relative, your cousin. So how are you going to touch him? We shan't go through all the people that are there who technically you should be touching, but you can't. Then you have the other problem he has. Because people have presidential ambition, who are your very close friends. So if you touch the agri minister, you have a problem. Because he's your very close friend, he has supported you, and notwithstanding he told us plantain was a certain price on a certain day, and now we all know that there's problem with food in the country, you are going to keep the agri minister because you can't touch him. If you touch him, in effect, you are affecting his campaign to now become a presidential candidate. You cannot take the portfolio of head of the economic management team from the vice president because it's not written in statutes. It's a convention, as far as I'm aware. So you can actually remove it. But no, he's also going for as a presidential candidate. Can you touch the trade minister, Alan Chomantin? All hell will break loose within the party. So because of that, you have left them all there. Meanwhile, all of us are suffering and the country is sinking. This is the headache he has. And if you are a firm and strong leader, you do the right thing. You move the person and say, you still want to be president, go ahead. After all, President Nana Addo, he's not coming again. Oh. He's not coming again. This is the time you expect him to be making good, firm, strong decisions. Because he doesn't have to pander to anybody. One of the arguments about whether it should be 2 terms, 4 years, 8 years, is that every 4 years, the first 4 years, people are seeking to retain their position, so they can't touch their people. He doesn't have that handicap. Except that he is still insisting that he wants to make sure that his back is covered. So he has his favorite. He knows what he's doing. So he can't touch people. So apart from the performance, which is clear-cut that everybody can see that people must move, he has other considerations in his mind which are not of any use to Ghanaians because the people are stale. They've run out of ideas. They are only thinking of how to become president or a vice president tomorrow. That is their main preoccupation, not about what is happening in Ghana. So with this type of a scenario, notwithstanding everybody can tell you that there should be a reshuffle, how is he going to reshuffle? So if he's reshuffling, we want to do, and he should do it quick. But it will, you know, when you do the right thing at the wrong time, it's wrong. By the time he gets around to doing it, it will be of no significance. We will all be saying, okay, we have heard. It's because, like the issue of the IMF, when he was advised to do it earlier and did it late, they say better late than never, but it's going to cost us a lot more. We told you don't deal with e-levy. E-levy will bring you the revenue you are projecting. E-levy cannot bring you that money. You told everybody that. Now lie. You did it your way. Here we are. It hasn't brought it. Every advice they give you, you don't take it. If you want to ensure, as I said, that President Nana Addo doesn't do something, let NDC or John Mahama say it. You know that will never happen because it will be like I'm following the advice of John Mahama or NDC. So it will never be done. So it's better we keep quiet so that good things can be done for the country. Or whisper to somebody so that it gets to them so that they... But the moment NDC come out with a press statement or say this should be done or what, or John Mahama makes a statement, then you know that that thing that has been spoken about, it will not be done or to be done later. Even with the EC. Today the EC is talking about, they are looking at how political parties, they are going to deal with the political parties and how they are going to vet them and do one of their functions, which we had written already when we're doing our reform. We had said, look at the political parties. Apart from looking at the political parties, create a new body even to do it. They haven't commented on it. All of a sudden, they are doing what they are supposed to be doing. So why? Because NDC said it, that you don't want to acknowledge that the points that NDC have given are useful. We will deal with this. You don't want to talk to us. Why? Because we haven't come to IPAC. So if the idea is good and we haven't come to IPAC, you won't implement it. Now you have gone to the back door trying to do it. No. We can't run a country like this. You can't run a country. And that's why we are all in this mess. The leadership across board doesn't understand what leaders should be doing. And sometimes you eat humble pie. Sometimes you must. So if you want to reshuffle, well, as I also said, it's not against us. Why are we even advising him to reshuffle? Keep them. They've run you into a ditch. And you want to... Now they will now look for a spade and they will dig the ditch even deeper. The only problem is we have to come and fix it afterwards when we go for, by the time we get to 2024. And if the hole is too deep, people will start thinking that we cannot fix it. But they are the people who have created it. He should reshuffle. Change your ministers. And not just your ministers. Cut down on expenditure. The expenditure is too high. What you have in as government expenditure, the number of people who work as presidential staffers, etc., is to show by example that you really mean to get us out of this hole. It's not just a question of revenue generation. There's an issue of the expenditure, which is very high. In fact, extremely high. Look at it holistically. Go to a table. Bring others on board. If you don't like NDC even, make it people with who are not openly partisan. After all, when we called you for SMG, you didn't come. We understand that. So you may find it difficult to call NDC. Fine. There are other Ghanaians who are not partisan, but they can give you advice. And now a lot of people are talking. On that note, Sena.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Segbefia. Well, so we are discussing the president's response to calls on him to reshuffle. If you just joined us, the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on TV, on Pan-African television from most studios. We are live. We are live on social media, on all their platforms. We are live on Radio Gold. Let me say a big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM. Alhassan Hamdan is joining us on Facebook. If you want to join us on Facebook and share a comment with us, look for Pan-African Television and you can get to share your comments. Alhassan Hamdan says, when the president said his ministers have done well, what was he talking about? The bad economy, the hardship, depreciation of the cedi, and corruption, which has become the order of the day, and the president is saying his ministers have done well. Is he suffering from, or is just weakness? But Mr. President, if we advise you to change your first 11 and refuse and the hardship continue, we have no option left than to embark on serious uprising. For the issue of electoral commission, Ghanaians must know that voting against the Nado Engine Mensa government is a civic responsibility that every citizen must endeavor come 2024. That's coming from Alhassan Hamdan in Tamale. A good morning to Suleiman Abdurrahim, who says the double standards of the NPP government is beyond imagination. The president admits there are challenges in the country, and yet he would not do a reshuffle. How can Ukraine and Russia war be the only cause of our challenges? Logical reasoning should come into play in the governance of this country. Alhassan Hamdan again says shouldn't behave as if they have the birthright to decide who qualifies to be Ghanaian. Article 42 is clear. The decision to use Ghana card as the only means of identification is a layman's approach. Their interest must always be in the collective interest of Ghanaians to exercise their franchise and not to appeal to any authority. It appears they are dining with government in power to execute a wicked agenda. I think it's commenting on our first topic. There's A.U. Farouk in Tamale North, who says a good morning to us. Even the war in Ukraine, Russia, which Ghana is shamelessly comparing itself to, their inflationary rate is not radical, running faster than that of ours. Ghana's economy is in crisis, lack of proper management. Abdul Nafil Sofian says, what do you expect the president to say when he's using the best men in the MPP? That's all they can offer. If we aren't satisfied, we know what to do on December 7, 2024. Gideon is asking me a question. Don't you know that the COVID fund was given to a family member to oversee? Samalama says MPP government should stop blaming their total failure on COVID-19 and Ukraine-Russia war, because our economy has collapsed due to their cluelessness, lawlessness, corruption, thievery, arrogance, profligate spending with impunity, etc. Okay. There's also Akobila K. John, who says, okay, he's talking about an experience with Mr. Segbefia at the NDC party headquarters on Tuesday. He said gives him every reason to belong to the great NDC, irrespective of whatever challenge I may face. You give us hope with your fair and balanced submission at any given opportunity. Okay, I will do that. Samolama says, any political group coming from UP tradition. You said? Oh, no. She'll never be allowed to come to power again, because history shows that they are nation wreckers. Richard Allah says, if you need to acquire Ghana card, you need passport or birth certificate, right? Jin Mensah and his staff said if you don't have Ghana card, you cannot vote. Let me move to Dzifa on the issue of the reshuffle, and I'll read more of the messages as we go along. Dzifa.
Sena, thank you very much, and good morning to my bosses here with me today. I'm always excited when I'm given the opportunity to talk on this platform, because I feel that mostly I represent the youth.
Okay.
So that in any argument whatsoever, people do not think that, oh, it's the old guys that think that way. It is only those who are grown that have problems with everything that is going on. Sena, I was a little bit outraged when I heard the comments that President Akufo-Addo made about this reshuffling thing. You know, whenever we have seen NPP do something horrible and we think that this is the last straw. In fact, last 2 weeks I was here and I was mentioning last straw. They couldn't have gone deeper. They couldn't have sunk us further. Whenever we've had a situation like that, they surprise us with how capable they are of sinking us further. The economy has been experiencing several things, and this is since they came into power. And we all know when there is this saying that if you want different results, you have to change your strategy. In this case, strategy means change the people. Whoever is in charge or whoever is doing something that is producing the same results. If you want different results, you change them. It is common sense. A child in JHS knows this. So I expect somebody who is over 70 years to know this. Now, the part that hurts me is when you said your ministers have been outstanding. It is different when you tell Ghanaians, I do not want to change anyone. Your own reason. It is a poor decision though, but your own reason. You could explain later. But you add that they have been outstanding and they are meeting the demands that you asked of them. The target that you were expecting from them, they are meeting it. So now I wonder, what was Akufo-Addo's target? What is it that he was expecting from his ministers? When people were voting for him in 2016, did they know what that president was looking for? Because if the current situation of our government, of our economy, seems to be the best for you, in that your ministers have been outstanding and they are performing well, then it doesn't look like, it feels like people who voted for him didn't do their investigation properly. Or it was a total mistake altogether. We have one thing that happens to me, or should I say that I feel as a communicator, is whenever I get onto a platform and then we have 1 week to discuss an issue and we haven't delved into it well, and then the next week we have another scandal. I can say, not for myself alone, but for communicators, how overwhelmed we have been with scandals week after week. Whenever I'm being called by the producer to come on Alhaji And Alhaji, I already know the topic. I only call for confirmation. Yes, because there is always a fresh scandal every week. There is always a fresh scandal every week, or at least a fresh goof. In this case, by the president. Every single week that passes, there is somebody in power that does something that is not supposed to be. And this is a president telling me that they have been outstanding. The various issues that we've had in Ghana that have plunged us into debt, that has shown us how reckless and clueless we are. And the president says that he shouldn't change the agric minister, for instance. who not once, not twice, has shown Ghanaians that he has no clue about the agricultural sector in Ghana and has no clue about the food situation in the country. Because we were there and then he came to tell us that a bunch of plantain was it 4 cities or 6 cities?
5.
5 cities. And was telling Ghanaians, because he was happy to announce that the entire country was lying and he had gone to buy a bunch of plantain somewhere. Now, I was assuming that it could have been true, that he indeed went to buy a bunch of plantain. But you realize that what the situation would have been was somebody may have recognized him and given it to him at a price that, you know, an unreal price. And then that was it. That one purchase that he did speedily came on radio to come and inform us that the whole country is lying. And he bought a bunch of plantain somewhere. This is the agric minister for you. In 2017, when Eslawusu manned up and gave a contract to a telecommunication company of $178 million to investigate and track the revenues of telecommunications, something that GRA is already doing, something that the NCA is already doing, threw that money to whoever the company was, and we know NPP's track record. A company that is even less than 2 years will be formed immediately and handed over, and we cannot trace the company because we have no idea. This is what the Minister of Communication does, causing financial loss to the state, unnecessary spending, and she is there, seated there, and Akufo-Addo thinks that, yes, she is performing outstandingly, and that she is meeting his expectations. As for the finance minister, the least said the better, but we cannot sit here, talk about ministers that need to be reshuffled or kicked out without talking about him. It has been a try and error situation for Ghana as far as the finance minister and Dr. Bawumia is concerned. I can say from my little investigation and tracking that our problems have been started, or should I say started, right from maybe 2017 onwards. And I have to say that from 2016 and 2017, they were still enjoying the goodwill of the stable economy that we left behind. Now, from 2017, everything has been a suggestion on how to loot a huge amount of money so that they can use, to the extent that you introduce the Ejapa deal, intending to mortgage our gold reserves, our gold royalties, for 15 years. After you leave power, the next government that comes and probably spends 8 years will still be paying that mortgage, in quotes, for 15 years for a mere $500 million. I'm not saying mere because I can afford that. I'm saying mere because we are recognized as a country that has a lot of gold. We were once called Gold Coast. We are still noted for that. So $500 million, we go for loans and everything, and then they give us $500 million for it. $500 million for 15 years. This is a finance minister who suggested that and was pushing it down our necks. And at the time, I can tell you that a lot of people didn't realize that Ghana was in jeopardy already. We knew we were struggling. But now it clicks that look at how hastily they were trying to, push this deal, forcing it down the throats of Ghanaians and mortgaging our gold royalties for 15 years in a stretch. Why are you running? Where are you going to? Then we should have known that that state, they have already realized that it was worse. And Russia-Ukraine war wasn't even there. It had not happened. Sena, this is a minister who still falls in place. After our very bold and able parliamentarians kicked that deal off, then they introduced e-levy. Told us that they don't have money, but Ghanaians have money, and one of the most lucrative ways of getting money was through e-transfers, money transfers.
Momo.
Mobile money, Momo. And so if they're able to tax it, little drops of water make a mighty ocean. They will have that mighty ocean that will save the economy. It was a struggle. I usually got really upset when we go into town and people who call themselves floating voters or non-political will start accusing the opposition, that is the NDC, of not fighting enough against the elite. Who should come and fight for you? I really got upset until eventually the e-levy was passed. The savior, the Jesus Christ of the economy, which was the e-levy, could not do the job that it was done, that it was supposed to do. And the finance minister had convinced and told everyone that it was possible. It was going to happen. This is a finance minister that we are holding very dear to our hearts. This is a finance minister that Akufo-Addo is saying that has performed outstandingly and is meeting up to expectations. And that there was not any reason why he should reshuffle this finance minister. In fact, kick him out. There was no reason. This is the finance minister that we are talking about. After this e-levy has failed and everything, Ken Ofori-Atta will come and tell us how proud of a nation that we are and how very competent his government is. And so they would not. He never even said IMF was a last resort. They would not go into IMF. No, we are a proud nation. As my uncle said, 3 days before the announcement, the finance minister had assured us again. What does it tell you? This is a financial situation. A financial and a situation about the economy. We are going to IMF. We would have known months before. And the finance minister comes and tells you that we are not going. It means he's clueless. This is a charade. He's just a stooge. He's been put there to look like he is in control of everything financial in the economy. But he has no idea. Because according to his own words, if you judge what he said, he didn't even know we're going to IMF. He wasn't even the one who announced it to us. This is the man who shouldn't be reshuffled. This is the man who shouldn't be kicked out. Now, the cluelessness of this government is not surprising. And Akufo-Addo granting that interview on radio doesn't shock me at all. Because this is the man who once mentioned that he was misled after supposedly going through a contract, signing an agreement for it to be pushed. He comes out, says he is misled. He has no idea what is happening. They bring papers to him, he signs, and he doesn't know the content. We know the de facto prime ministers in Ghana. We know those who are actually calling the shots. Most of the ministers are not part. The head of state himself is not part. So if there is this, excuse me to use the word shallow person, who has no idea what is going on in his own country, the country he's leading, how would you and me expect him to see that his ministers are not working? How would you and me expect him to see that he has to change his strategy to be able to get a lot out, or should I say a different result? Because 6 years down the line, if you haven't been able to do what you said you would do in 6 years, what can you do in 2 years? But a smart person who regrets would be able to say, oh, why don't I just change something little? Change a few places, just like a chess game. You put this here, you put that here, and see whether the outcome will be different. He had an opportunity on that day when he was talking on radio to come out as somebody who has regretted some of the appointments he's made, or somebody who has admitted subtly that there are few things that were not done right, which is right. It's okay. We all make mistakes, Sena. There is no president in the world who has never made a mistake before. We all make mistakes. So there was this silent opportunity in the corner for him to come out and say, we have appointed certain people we couldn't have appointed. We shouldn't have appointed. And probably wouldn't have known until they delivered. And so what do? Let me change this person and see whether it will work. And he didn't take it. He rather showed us how clueless he is. Unfortunately, this is the situation that we live in. And I can say confidently that he has proven to us again how much we are going down, how far he can take us, and the fact that it hasn't ended yet. There is more to come. I am disappointed in that speech as a young person. I am disappointed that you can courageously back such a fallen economy and say that your ministers have been the best, and say that they have actually gone according to your expectations. That means your expectations for us all the way was so low and we never knew about it. And I always really entreat the people out there to really think deep. Think deep and look at the nature of our president's mind and the way he speaks and the people he pushes certain accolades to tell us that we are in a wrong position. We will fall deeper than this. And in fact, the IMF issue that is coming up won't even be better. Because the mindset of those who are ruling us is so daft, is so shallow. I remember this issue of PDS scandal, where it's so bitter for me. Because whilst everybody is even talking about the deal, I'm even talking about how we have even lost so much because it was so swift and sharp from ECG to PDS. And having to do rebranding of the entire company that has gone to waste now. A country that cannot afford zilch. A country that doesn't have. A country that keeps borrowing. We keep wasting and throwing money away. Refer to the Boss scandal, for instance. The Boss contaminated fuel. That wasn't even investigated, wasn't even touched. They claimed the BNI went through, but wasn't even investigated. And before we know, we have lost $15 million in revenue for this oil issue. And there is no one to be reshuffled. You'd rather blame that the opposition party is the one instigating reshuffling. It's unfortunate, but this is where we lie. It looks like everybody has to take matters into their own hands and then think about themselves and think about their own future. Work as though there is no leadership in the country, because that is the actual situation on the ground. If you have a president who would rather spend lavishly on private jets and women, why would they think that another minister somewhere spending unnecessarily? Why would the president think that Eslawusu, given that $178 million contract, is wrong? Because he spends, when the country is plunging, he's spending money in airplanes, hiring airplanes, inviting women to sit with him, and having all sorts of deals. He would hire an airplane to go to France to beg that France clears our debt. That is the kind of mentality someone like Akufo-Addo has. Let me not just even mention his name because it's an entire government. So now we are just doomed. And it looks like he doesn't even understand the intensity or the gravity of what he said. But he has insulted Ghanaians. By that he meant that we are fools. Because if everything, all your appointments are okay and your leaders are okay, then why are we suffering like we are today? Why are we in so much debt that we cannot clear ourselves? Then what is wrong? So it is not you, it is not your appointees. Then who is wrong? Is it we, the citizens, that are wrong? He has insulted us. He says we are not intelligent. He says that we are fools, we are not smart. So he can come and tell us anything. And then that is it, it flies away. This is what the president is telling every Ghanaian there. And I really wish that people could deduce it and probably understand what he really meant when he said that. If I can decide to change my strategy to be able to gain new results, and the president to say he cannot or he will not because it's not necessary, to say he's a mistake is an understatement. Because he is more than a mistake. The fact that we are stuck and we have to go with him till he leaves out of power, that is my shame. That we cannot do anything about it. That is how frustrated me and a lot more people are today. The president is such a big disappointment. He should bow down his head in shame, and never again should any Ghanaian sit for somebody to come and lie to us, or should I say give us flimsy excuses and sugar-coated words and glittering promises only to come and deliver nothing at all. Sena, I'll just leave it here.
Thank you. Thank you, Dzifa. A few messages before I move to Mr. Pratt. This is Selom Agbenohevi, who says, if you have a junk government, you have junk ratings, simple and short. James West's performance are 1,000 times better than the loud slogans slinging visionless and corrupt, pompous and empty promissory leadership we have today. Dennis Yakwete is also joining us. I'm surprised that Ghanaians cannot understand why President Akufo-Addo cannot reshuffle or fire his incompetent ministers without, without pain. When his government is saturated with family and friends, some of them were his financiers whilst in opposition. This is the hard truth. Abdul Kadiri Katarega is also joining us. Says, Sena, some of us are not surprised because this super incompetent president and his people know about what they are doing. May God Almighty Allah save Mother Ghana from this wicked administration. Godfrey Daglomote says Nana Addo and his family know that a lot of Ghanaians are still in analog and they don't want to come to digital. That is all. Tanimu Issa says, my minister's performance outstanding, Akufo-Addo. The president should tell us what he actually means by his ministers are outstanding. Outstanding in doing what? Mismanaging the economy, causing hikes in prices of goods and services, outstanding in making the dollar breaking jail, outstanding in cooking corruption deals for him, or outstanding in using state resources on useless expenditure like building his cathedral or in financing his bathing in the sky. He should come again. Emmanuel Boekwe says, Ghanaians, how can a country of rule of law with lawyers, but yet our lawyers cannot uphold the rule of law? Uzana Tugbe says, how can he change anybody in his cabinet when he is the chief driver? When the head is rotten, the whole body will be bad. There's Paul Blitio says, what we are going through now is some Ghanaians don't think about the future of this country. That's why they vote for Nana Akufo-Addo. There's Kofi Ganaba who says, when we were exchanging US dollars for 3 cedis 45 pesos, Nana Addo called for a change of government because it was performing badly. What did he expect us to say now that the US dollar is over 9 cedis? There's Alhaji Haruna in Ashaman who says, Sena, Nana Addo, the MPP and Nana Addo are confused. They should better take the call by former President John Mahama for a national dialogue to salvage the economy. In fact, I have heard that call not truly for former President Mahama. Mr. Pratt has been saying that for like 3 years. Fiagbo Dela says, politicians stop helping the MPP by saying they spend the money on election 2020. What about the chunks of money the president's family is amassing? For each region, they must be prosecuted after they leave the corridors of power. So there are several other messages that I would like to go through as many as I can as we go along in the show. But thank you very much for sticking and staying with us. This is the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Mr. Pratt.
Well, first of all, I want to, as I do sometimes, clear the cobwebs. Okay. The impression is given that since this president assumed office, he has worked with one set of ministers and one set of ministers alone, and that there have been no changes in ministerial portfolios. That is a false impression. At least, off the top of my head, I can remember that Boachie Jaku lost his job. Eugene Ahina, no, Eugene, whatever, Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, lost his job. Atachia lost his job. Otiko Jaba is no longer in government, and some others. So it cannot be true that the president has maintained the same team up to today. That is false. Okay. The other cobweb which needs to be cleared, it's simply this, that what is confronting us today is far more than the incompetence of individuals. What has failed us, what has led to an increase in inflation, what has led to the depreciation of the currency, what has led to very high level of indebtedness and so on, is policy failure. The policy is not working. The framework within which government functions has collapsed. The neoliberal order is not able to deliver. Capitalism is in crisis. That is what is confronting us today. And that is why I suspect that some very prominent citizens have said that a reshuffle would not address the fundamental issues. Indeed, I refer to somebody like Mr. Kodon, who was Chief of Staff and Minister of Presidential Affairs under President Akufo. If you just brought in a few ministers, or most ministers, and changed old ones and so on, how does this address the fundamental question of the ride on the neoliberal path to development? It doesn't. So I think that's also an important consideration. Now, the president's statement throws out things which are even far more dangerous than what I'm hearing. He's pointing to something which is far more devastating, something which can become more crippling. Now, what does the president say? The president says that he's the sole authority when it comes to appointments. He's the ultimate authority when it comes to appointments. And that he makes the decision. Nobody can make the decision. Is that true? That is false. If you look at the 1992 Constitution, the president does not have the power to appoint ministers, district chief executives, and all the other appointees. He doesn't have the power to do that alone. So, for example, when he wants to select ministers, the Constitution insists that those ministers should be sent to Parliament for approval. I hope you understand that. When he appoints district chief executives and municipal chief executives, the local government structures approve them. In fact, when he makes appointments to the public service, the Public Services Commission has a role. I mean, recently he announced appointments to the National Security Secretariat. And somebody was given the job of Deputy National Security Coordinator. The statement from Flagstaff House indicated that that appointment was awaiting the approval of the Public Services Commission. And that until we got approval from the Public Services Commission, that person will continue to act, will be performing his duties in acting capacity. So the president's statement clearly shows that he doesn't even understand the limits of his power. The president is beginning to think that he's omnipotent. And that is hugely dangerous. Again, you have to consider the fact that he was not elected as an independent candidate. He got to the Flagstaff House on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. And therefore, the party which sent him there has a say in what he does, in who he appoints, and how he generally conducts himself. Okay? Because the assumption is that he's in the Flagstaff House implementing the agenda of the New Patriotic Party. The manifesto we took him there is the manifesto of the New Patriotic Party. And to that extent, it is reasonable to expect that the New Patriotic Party as a party will be consulted, and even if it's not consulted, it has a right to call the president to order. Now, I think it's also important for us to understand very clearly that even the president himself can be removed from office. There are processes of impeachment. What does that mean? It means that the president himself can be removed from office. So when you have a situation where a president who himself can be sacked begins to think of himself as an omnipotent power, of course, that's tautology. Omnipotent means all-powerful. When he begins to think of himself as being omnipotent, then there's a huge problem. Okay? Now, which kind of leaders are described as dictators? The leaders who are described as dictators are leaders who listen to nobody, but only themselves. Leaders who are described as dictators as leaders who see themselves as being all-powerful, omnipotent. And that is what worries me. I mean, I'm really frightened by the kinds of statements that the president made. He's the ultimate power, the ultimate authority. He alone and he alone decides who should be in office and who should not be in office. And that will suggest a clear intent or desire to undermine the constitutional provisions. Why? Ministers can be censored by Parliament. And when ministers are censored by Parliament, what does that mean? What does that mean? Okay? So, first of all, we need to impress on our president that he is not all-powerful and that his powers are limited. In any case, he can only continue to be the president of this republic if he continues to do what the people of Ghana want. There's a contract between us and the president. He sits in the Flagstaff House. We feed him. We give him all the security that is necessary. We allow him even to hire his private jets and so on one condition, that he continues to do what the people of Ghana want. So in this instance, I think it's only pertinent for us to ask ourselves, what do the people of Ghana want? Now, I'm convinced, listening to radio, watching television, reading newspapers, going about town and so on, I'm convinced that those calling for the reshuffle of his government are mainly coming from his own political party. The vast majority of those who want a reshuffle in this administration are coming from the New Patriotic Party. To the extent that the Foot Soldiers Association of the New Patriotic Party has actually issued a statement signed by Sir Obama of Pokuase, calling for a reshuffle. That's a loud statement. Okay? Now, when the president finally announced that he would not reshuffle, the Foot Soldiers of the New Patriotic Party came up with another statement and said they were disappointed in his decision. They said, as loyal members of the party, they will continue to work for the party. But they are so disappointed in the president. Now, what are the reasons for the disappointment? They are saying that the current crop of public office holders that the president has appointed are not the most competent people in the New Patriotic Party. And that there's a reserve team which may be more competent than the people that he has employed. Now, people in the party are worried, okay? Now, they are worried because everybody admits that things are not going well. I don't have to repeat why things are not going well and what the indicators are. The president himself has admitted that things are not going well. The vice president has admitted that things are not going well. Only recently, the Council of State met the president to discuss how to alleviate the suffering in our society. So the Council of State itself is not happy with how things are going and so on. You understand? Now, if the president insists, or if the government insists that this is the best that the New Patriotic Party can produce, it has consequences for the future. What are the consequences for the future? If this is their best, who is going to vote for this? I hope you understand what I'm saying. Because if you vote for this, you are talking about a perpetuation of the crisis. You are talking about repeating the policy failures. You understand? You are talking about exacerbating the economic hardships that that confront us and so on. So people in the party are saying that, look, Mr. President, we know people in this party who can display a higher level of competence. So get rid of some of these people and bring in others who may redeem us for the future. That's what they're saying. You understand? Now, there is something else which is interesting. All of us admit now that we are in crisis. The president has taken a very interesting step. The president has asked his appointees to accept lower remuneration, to sacrifice part of their remuneration because we're in hardship. Now, what does that mean? It means that the president himself acknowledges the fact that remuneration for his appointees have become burdensome. Because if remuneration for his appointees have not become burdensome, why is he asking them to reduce what they earn? Now, if we come to admit that remuneration for the appointees of the president have become burdensome, doesn't it make sense to cut down the numbers? Now, this is the government which has appointed the most ministers in our history. This government of a country with a population of 31 million has appointed more ministers than China. Think about it. Reflect. So, in the face of crisis, one of the things that one would have expected the president to do is to follow his own logic. And his own logic being that the conditions of service enjoyed by his appointees have become burdensome. And if the condition of service enjoyed by his appointees have become burdensome, reduce the numbers. President Mills had about 80 ministers or 81 ministers or so. These same people in government today cry to the high heavens that there were too many people, too many ministers, and so on. Now, the number of ministers has exceeded 100. You understand? And the president tells us that he has done that because his job is far more difficult than the job that his predecessors were doing. Now, that is strange. You know why that is strange? Because we are told by the same president that President Mills took over at a time when the new patriotic party led by former President John Akufo-Addo had laid a solid foundation for takeoff and for development. So if it is true that by 2009 when President Mills became president, there was a solid foundation, everything was ready for a massive takeoff and so on, how does his job become more difficult than that of, it simply doesn't make sense. Okay? But look, what are the problems confronting us now? My brother and friend Alex has gone to great lengths about the problems and so on. What are the problems confronting us now? Our currency is depreciating at an alarming rate. Indeed, Alex quotes 9.2. The last time I checked, the cedi is exchanging at 9.7 for $1. Now, I recall that when the cedi was exchanging at 3.4 for $1, the current president said it was a serious mark of incompetence, and that alone called for a change in government. Now, from 3.4, we've now moved to 9.7. It's time to pause and to reflect. Time to find out why the magic of Nana Akufo-Addo and his government is not working when it comes to the exchange rate. We are told that the Russian-Ukrainian war is responsible for the current state of affairs. You understand? Of course, my other good friend, Isaac Adongo, raised the issue. He says, why? are the bombs falling on Accra and Tema? The bombs are falling in Ukraine. Even while the bombs are falling, their currencies are becoming stronger. I mean, you take the ruble. The ruble today is one of the strongest currencies in the world. So how come that those who are actually shooting at themselves, their currencies are far more stable than those of us living on the equator, far away from the theater of conflict? It simply doesn't make sense. There are two factors why the ruble is appreciating in value or is so strong. Two factors. The first factor is that Russia has some things that the whole world need. And the world will continue to chase Russia for those things. Two of them, oil and gas. The entire European economy is dependent on Russian oil and gas. So when Russia says, I'm not selling my oil in dollars, I'm selling it in rubles, countries like India and so on, countries like China and so on, go and buy it in rubles. So in the international trade, Russia's currency does not suffer. Okay? Because Russia is trading in rubles. That's one of the factors. Now, the other factor is that Russia has pegged the value of its currency to gold. Okay? Let's look at Ghana. Let's look at Ghana. We don't have as much gas and oil as Russia does. That's given. I concede that. But hey, we are the largest producer of gold in Africa. The sixth largest producer of gold in the world. So how come that our city is tumbling? And then these, your African leaders, I find it very difficult to call them my African leaders. But these your African leaders. Sometimes you wonder how they think, how their brain functions. Africa has the largest arable land in the world. Fact. We have the largest arable land in the world. And we are saying that if Ukraine doesn't give us food, we will die. What does that say about us? What does that say about the kind of leadership we have? We have the largest arable land in the world, the whole world. So how come our leaders are crying that because of war in Ukraine we can't feed ourselves? If because of war in Ukraine we cannot feed ourselves, it points to the failure of our agricultural policy and agricultural practices. That is what it points to. And then they are crying, oh, fertilizer. I mean, fertilizer. We can't get fertilizer from Ukraine. We can't get fertilizer from Russia. And I'm sitting back and saying, wow, what kind of dummies have we elected as our leaders? I recall, as a young reporter in 1976, writing stories about General Achampon's vision for agriculture. And General Achampon made the point that, look, chemical fertilizer is injurious to the health of our people. Again, we have to spend much needed foreign exchange to import chemical fertilizers. It affects the value of our currency and so on. And therefore, we needed to shift to organic fertilizer. And that is why in the early 70s, the Achampon government commissioned the Teshin Nungwa compost plant. Look at how many years have passed since Achampon commissioned the Teshin Nungwa compost plant. How many years have passed? And we are still here crying over fertilizer from Ukraine and blaming Russia for our problems and so on. I can't think far. And for me, the other thing which is most baffling, Sena, is that I look at General Achampo, and this is a product of the Swedro Business College. Product of the Swedro Business College. Look at how he thought about agriculture. In the first few years of his administration, Ghana did not only become self-sufficient in food production, Ghana began massive exports of food. Now, here we are. Okay? We can continue, about the hardships that we face and so on, and how to get out of it, and whether reshuffles are relevant and so on. The point is simple. The president thinks, and has said so, that those in his own party, the New Patriotic Party, who think that he needs to organize a reshuffle of his ministers, are only looking for jobs. They don't have jobs. They are hungry for jobs. And that is why they are making these ugly noises, calling on their president to reshuffle his cabinet and so on. But I thought that this government claims that it is being the best when it comes to job creation. So the jobs it's created are not for party people. The party people are not entitled to the jobs he has created. So who is he creating the jobs for? If his party people are still hungry for jobs, if they are crying for jobs, to the extent that they will be making statements about reshuffle and so on, then where are the jobs he has created? Or the jobs he has created, what happened to those jobs and so on? I can't believe it. I'm also worried about the fact that, he can dismiss views from important sections of his party with just a wave of his hand. So, if suggestions coming from the New Patriotic Party are treated this way, what then will happen to suggestions coming from the National Democratic Congress? And then he makes another very strange statement, that the calls for reshuffle coming from the National Democratic Congress are intended to subvert his government. Why is that link? Yesterday I was reading a statement which was made by Adam, whichever. I was reading it in the newspaper. And I was asking, what is the link between subversion and reshuffle? And I started thinking, I'm trying to find the link between subversion and reshuffle. And as I was groping, trying hard to find the link, I couldn't find the link. So, any suggestion from people who have different political and ideological perspectives and so on, sabotage. God bless Ghana. If this is the attitude, how can we move forward? Right now, as we sit here, very important sections of our society, including organized labor, including faith-based organizations and so on, have come to us and said, look, we are in crisis. And that normally when you are in such crisis, what you do is to try and build a national consensus on the way forward. Now, how do you build a national consensus on the way forward when suggestions from your opponents, suggestions from people who are different from you politically and perhaps ideologically, I'm not so sure, amount to sabotage, subversion, and so on? It is not possible to build a national consensus if this is the attitude. And that is why I'm very deeply worried. Now, the president can elect not to do a reshuffle. That's the president's business as he claims. Okay? But the president cannot compel the people of Ghana to behave in any particular way. So the people of Ghana may one day decide to do a reshuffle. And if the people of Ghana decide to do a reshuffle, we will see who is powerful. Whether it's the people of Ghana who have the power to reshuffle, or it's the president who has the power to reshuffle. Look, don't take the people of Ghana for granted. Nobody should take the people of Ghana for granted. It is the people of this West African country who defeated British colonialism. At a time when Britain claimed that it ruled the waves, it was brought down by these same people. These same people, I've seen them, have created the conditions for changing governments many times over. In 1979, I saw these people that everybody thought were docile, cheering executions. Alright? The Ghanaian people that we all take for granted, everybody thinks that, look, these people, they are so docile and so on. They were cheering executions. Amasa, the executions they were cheering, they were cheering the execution of leaders who had left significant marks, who had achieved something. They were cheering the execution of Achampong who had increased the housing stock. Achampong who had increased our power generation capacity. Achampong who had made a success of Operation Feed Yourself and Feed Your Industries. They were cheering the execution of Achampong who had become a pillar in the struggle against apartheid. They were cheering the execution of Achampong, who throughout his presidency traveled outside this country only once. Did you ever hear of Achampong traveling to London? The only country Achampong visited in his 6.5 years reign and so was Togo. And they cheered his execution. The people of this country cheered the execution of Amedome. Why? Because Amedome had taken a loan in today's value of about 5 cedis. Without collateral. Oh. In today's value, Amedome had taken a loan of 50,000, not Ghana cedis. Then, yes. The 70s cedis. Without collateral. And the people of Ghana cheered his execution. In today's value, it's probably about 5 cedis. About 5 cedis. If you come to think about the fact that in those days, the cedi exchange, in fact, even in 1982, the cedi was exchanging at 2.75 to $1. 2.75, you can't find the equivalent in today's money. It doesn't exist. In fact, since 1982, the cedi has devalued at the rate of 28,000%. So the money Amedome borrowed, for which he was executed by Fine Square, not that he stole, he borrowed without collateral, was 5 cedis. Sena, should I say more? Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. I'll come to Ellen shortly. And Ellen, welcome and a good morning to you. This is a teacher from Teshinungwa State who says Nana Akufo-Addo does not respect teachers. Let him know the late General Akufo-Addo, a trained teacher, performed over 100 times better than him. There's positive change in Madiam, who says governance is not like school preferred position in JHS. The mistake we made was voting these clueless people to manage our resources and economy. Today, the Ghanaian economy is like President Akufo-Addo's. I hear you. There is also more messages. This is Kojocho Ngwafu, who says someone tell that irresponsible dude Ghanaians call their president. That remember when he was jobless and begged us to make him president. Remember his days of Somishe. Remember the days when he was drinking Calipo to increase his sugar level. We'll return him there. And as for the monies he and his lieutenants have stolen, they will never get to enjoy it. That's from Kojocho Ngwafu. This one is coming from Papa Bishi, who says, when the ruling parties own people like Kodjo Mpianim, former chief of staff under Kufuor's regime, Kobna Ejepong, Kwame Mpianim, a founding member of the MPP, Dr. Amankwa Amuakuba, a leading member of the MPP, Obrey Boahen, immediate past deputy secretary of the MPP, all start complaining about deteriorating conditions of Ghana state, then you should know the center can no longer hold. Total confusion and division in party, hence the hopelessness situation we now find ourselves in. In fact, it is really sad to be Ghanaian under this hopeless MPP government. There's also one from, Honorable Tortoise, Lagbaja in Accra. Says all you need is unity in the NDC party, GM for Victory Camp 2024. We should be focused as one people. Thank you for that message. Okay, Jonas has something else on his mind. He's talking about the IGP. Justice Monyu says borrowing for consumption and few hands working. More mouth eating is definitely not working to promote development. Unfortunately, President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Bawumia, are doing exactly that. The country needs new ideas to overcome the current economic mess. There's Abbas Amogobo in Ofinso, who also says, when the president said his ministers have done well, what was he talking about? The bad economy? Okay, I think I've read this on Facebook. Musa Batwa says, Sena, we should blame economic management team led by Dr. Bawumia for the disgraceful and shameful position by all reputable institutions in the world. Is as a result of corruption and mismanagement of the economy by Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. The city keeps exposing Bawumia's understanding of the economy. We are experiencing the highest inflation in the history of Ghana. They are good at deceitful messages, but they are impotent in managing the economy. That is Musa Abatwa. There's Kwame Sedem in Soviet, who says President Akufo-Addo has his best team in place and cannot do any reshuffle, obviously, because there are no substitutes. And also, no one in his party wants to be given any killer pass since the government has been run aground. There's Hadi in Pig Farm, who says life in Ghana is gradually becoming worse than a war-stricken country. Nana Addo and his super incompetent and substandard family and friends government accuse the humble and hardworking JDM for being corrupt. The good people of Ghana followed the lies and we voted him out. But now we have seen the difference and it is very clear. So we shall really rally behind him and vote him back as our president. Let me come to Ellen for her thoughts on the matter of the reshuffle. Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to all of you. My apologies for being late. I continually have to apologize for being late because Saturdays, and I told your producer, when you have to go out from Monday till Friday and you're a mother, and Saturdays are days that you have to work. So my apologies, sir. My sons were acting up as usual. Yes, on the president's reshuffle matter. All these years, every single president of Ghana has had the opportunity granted to him by our constitution to choose the people he wants to work with. We all have every right to express our opinions on who he's bringing along. So since he has the mandate to choose who he wants to work with, and he has come out to say that he's perfectly happy with the people he's working with, I believe we should all leave him be. When he decides that he wants to change, he would change. In the third statement that he made in the northern part of Ghana, he also mentioned that no responsible president will come on radio and come and announce that I'm going to change or going to do a reshuffle today or tomorrow. So I presume that he knows exactly what he's doing. Let us also not forget that he knows the ministers more. He has a lot of information that the rest of us do not have. So if he has chosen, with everything going on, that he still wants to work with this group, I think we should just let him be and watch him. Members of the NPP, as Mr. Pratt said, the Food Soldiers Association, and a lot of other people have also made their opinions known. And let's remember, they are your opinions. But our constitution gives the president the final authority. In the next few years, we are going to refer to this government as the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo led government, just like how we do to the Achampong regime, just like how we do to President Kufuor, just like how we do to ex-President Rollins and ex-President Mahama. The buck stops with him. Nobody is going to mention Elendeku-led government because I'm not president yet. So since he is the final arbiter and his name is going to go down in history as having led his government, I think we should leave him be and let him go lead with the people he thinks can work with him. And this is my simple take on the matter. I really will not go into it. He is the president. We voted for him. Well, I did vote for him to go for 4 years. He's gone almost 2 years in his tenure. He says, I want to work with this group. So be it.
Well, so simple and straightforward. Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. That concludes our discussion on the president's response to calls for a reshuffle. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we're talking Ghana card alone, no other document for voter registration. We are back shortly.
Welcome to Come Trading and Fed. We are the sole importers and distributors of FM World Rulong Plus Plus combined harvesters. We are the sole importers and distributors of FM World combined machines. If you buy from us, spare parts are readily available. Our machines can pick and harvest logged rice as well as standing rice and is 102 horsepower. FM World tractors also have 110 horsepower, which is fully hydraulic and can break hard grounds. Our rotavators is also 102 horsepower. It works perfectly in muddy areas and in lands where tractors cannot operate. World combined harvesters come with automatic gear drive, diesel power engine, 1.77 cubic grain storage tanks, 2.2 meter curtain width, 360-degree unloading pipe and sunshade, as well as 2 diesel filters. Our branches include Tamale Airport area, Accra Ritz Junction. Kindly call us on 0278 223 811 or 0550 108 899. as well as 020-1600-727. Don't buy fake, buy original. Buy from us now. Come Trading and Farms Limited, your best importers and suppliers of FM World Rulong Plus Plus combined harvesters.
He has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and
Welcome back from that break. Thank you very much for sticking with us on the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are very, very grateful. Let's move on to the next discussion on the table. And it has to do with the proposal. No, not a proposal, actually. There's a CI in place, constitutional instrument in place. We understand there's a prelay in Parliament where some concerns have been raised. But the Electoral Commission still insists that that is the way to go. In fact, like I promised, there's a story that's published by the Graphic on their website about the conversation they had with the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who still talks about that whole proposal still being in place. and I think I can find that shortly. And they were speaking to Dr. Bosman Asari, and this is his response to Dr. Kojo Afarijan, who had raised issues about how that would disenfranchise people. And I will jump to the quotes that are attributed to him. He says, okay, this is the story. Dr. Bosman Asari explained that a voters registration, when rolled out in January next year, will go on for almost 2 years, as it will continue till October 7, 2024. By that time, he said eligible voters who wanted to register would have obtained their Ghana cards to enable them to register as voters. The EC had, he said, already had more than 17 million voters on the national register and was looking at about 2 million new voters by the end of the 2-year registration. Quote, there are challenges in obtaining the Ghana card, we acknowledge, but we are not registering everybody in January for us to say those without the card will be affected. We will have a continuous registration till October 7, 2024 for all of them to vote in the 2024 elections. Quote, we want to avoid the registration of foreigners and minors. We want to make progress as a nation. The quotes continue, they should go and get the cards. As soon as we roll out registration, we are not going to stop registering till October 7, 2024. It says you have enough time to get yourself a Ghana card and get registered to vote. And I start lawyer Segbefia on this one too. Thank
you once again very much for this opportunity. Starting point. No one is against the Ghana card being used for allowing people to be put on the voters register. The issue is whether it should be the sole form of identification used. And once again, the EC is making a decision prematurely. These type of decisions are made when you are satisfied that all the people who need to have a Ghana card have a Ghana card. Why? The EC is not responsible for issuing Ghana card. The NIA is responsible for issuing Ghana card. So why don't you wait till such time that the NIA tells you that the majority, and I'm talking of close to 99%, 100% of people have got Ghana card, and then implement this policy. You cannot hope that they will register everybody and then bring the policy. So you bring it now in the hope that the NIA will have registered everybody who requires a Ghana card, or everybody would have got it. This is important because the NIA itself has said that they do not believe they have the resources to register the 3 million people we estimate have still not either registered or obtained their Ghana card. Because there are different categories. You have to understand how the registration process worked. You go to a center, you are registered. They tell you, your card will be ready in 2 weeks, a month, whatever. So you leave. When the card is ready, no attempt is actually made directly to contact you. You are supposed to come back when you said the card was ready. And you are doing it at registration centers at the district or in... It's not done at the polling stations because there's no resources for that. So if you have places where their district is 20, 40, I know of a place where it's 80 miles from where the villages and towns are. The person now must find transport to go back. That system was flawed. From day one, what should have happened is, as the person is there, you take his details, unless there's a challenge or you feel something is wrong, you know that everything is right, they should have printed the card there and then. Within an hour, here's your card, you go, matter over. But we have a resource problem. One, we couldn't put it in all the polling stations. So people are getting the Ghana, or in if not polling stations, even closer units. So people have to travel. The NIA did not have even machines, which was a problem with the EC, which were meant for mass registration. They are used to people registering at different centers throughout a certain time frame. So you may need to change some of that machinery. There's a cost. There was shortage of cards themselves at a certain point. It's a cost. So if the NIA itself is saying that there are challenges, and don't forget, this process started in 2018. From 2018 to 2022 that we are in, we've had the total of, I think, 17 million odd people registered. Not all have collected their cards, but registered. And if we assume that we are about 20 million odd adults, by when you look at, you do this thing, you have 3 million odd. So what you have is a situation where in 4 years, you have managed to register, I think, 15 million or 17 million odd people. Which means that if you give a deadline as has been given for, and I'm now talking of the SIM registration, for example, of September, and there are 3 million people that don't have a card, you are definitely not going to be able to register those 3 million people by this September, October. So there's that issue with the card. Let me move to actually the voting. You have done a projection that, if you are able to register these people, in the next 2 years, we will be able to register the remaining 3 million. But you have registered people whose cards they have not even collected. And looking at the time frame, you are not going to be able to succeed. Because even the budget, which was asked for by the NIA, 50% of the budget was given to them, not the full amount. So whatever projections they have even made for this year, they are not going to meet it. When you put all these things together, how does an EC make a judgment call for all of us on our voting rights with an organization that is not able to tell us that it can meet the criteria? Definitely. It's a hope. So actually, what they are trying to do, at best, is a 2028 proposal. It is not a 2024 proposal. You are rushing it. Everything involving this current government is rushed. The idea is not a bad one, but it's premature. You're going to rush all of us into this. But Ghanaians are the cause. They don't want to go and register. When they open it, that is not the point. After all, 70 million Ghanaians have registered, or 50 million have registered. If they have registered, it means that with the process as it is, we have got people on board. Eventually, we'll get to the end. Don't let us go and put calamity in our way. Why? Because elections have been, we all know in Africa, have been the one main catalyst of upheavals in countries. So you can see it there. It's a problem. Don't go near it. Why don't you want people to be able to vouch? Good reasons. The vouching process has been abused. There are issues with vouching for the EC card. People will bring their party, people will bring their people, then they vouch. All those arguments are put. Then I ask a simple question. The national identification card that you are doing, is vouching allowed? You say yes. So vouching is allowed for the NIA card. But, so the person who comes with the NIA card to put himself on the voter register, he's been vouched for. He's been vouched for. And he has brought it and you have accepted it. But when he comes direct, he cannot be vouched for. You just think about it logically. I'm only going to use this card. Why won't you allow me to vouch? No. Go and get NIA card. When I go for NIA, I don't have it, so somebody can vouch that yes, you vouch, you get your NIA card, you come back. When they were preparing the the laws for the NIA, they looked at the EC one and said, we will add vouching to our NIA so that every Ghanaian, and it's even more important for the EC because they have a constitutional mandate to ensure that every Ghanaian everywhere has the right to vote. It's a fundamental principle of our constitution. So don't make laws that has the tendency or ability to exclude people from that right. Sometimes when I hear this issue of, the people have fake this, people have fake, so there will be no fake NIA cards again. When you are going for passport, they use biometric. So what is wrong with somebody using his passport? If somebody has a passport, why can't he use his passport to get NIA card or get his EC card? They use biometric. What? Are you now saying that all our passports are fake? We are turning everything on its head in this country. You want a passport, they say bring your birth certificate. The court has now ruled that the birth certificate is not an ID. But to get your passport, which now becomes an ID, you can use the birth certificate. Are we thinking, to borrow words from Kwesi Pratt, are we using our heads in this matter? NIA, you can vouch to get it, but you cannot use it for EC. Passport, you can use birth certificate, but when the passport is obtained, which is now your ID, you cannot use birth certificate for anything else because it's not an ID. Where do we come up with this type of, how do we get into this type of positions? So you have that posture or position where, if you're not careful, you are really going to disenfranchise people. Because if you are not able to guarantee that everybody has an NIA card, which you can guarantee by putting this continuous registration in position by 2026, we can all be comfortable that when I walk next door, I go to a bank, I've come from abroad, 10 years, I've been away, I come, by the way, I want to open a bank. You can't open an account, you don't have NIA card. Just go to the shop down the road, you go, 30 minutes, it's done. You come back, you open your account. That is the kind of position you want to be in with NIA, where it's easy as a Ghanaian to get it. That is the point at which you can say that only that can be used for voting, to get onto the voters register. So why are we rushing? Why? We want to have recommendations that will help our election. NDC came out with recommendations. This is the book. 34 of them. The first 10, I was just mentioning an issue. The first 10, number 10 is a recommendation not to do with the NIA card, but something that the EC is doing now. Consideration will be given to the establishment of the Office of the Regulator of the Political Parties. We called it ORPP. Different from the Electoral Commission. We advise them that they are not, the role of regulating political parties, which is under them, they are not performing it. And the way they are using it is creating a lot of distrust. So form a new body to deal with it. The moment NDC opened this, now you are going around and saying, now we are going to regulate the political parties. Is it now that you know you have that duty? You've had that duty all along. The EC is behaving as if they are part of the politics. So we have boycotted IPAC. We know why we boycotted, and we've told you why. That look, the way in which you are running IPAC is creating problems for everybody. Change your style. There were people before you. We know how this thing ran. You are now quoting us law. As if people didn't know there was law before they created IPAC. We all knew law. We knew what the law was. What is the point of you creating IPAC? It was a consensus building platform. You load this thing with political parties. Some have got a history in the recent past of being active. So even you can understand. Some we don't even know the names, we don't even know where they exist, what they have done, we don't know where they are even. They are all there. Why? If you talk of CPP, we know them. If you talk of even domestication, we know. But there are some names. If you know the number of political parties that exist in that EC, when they call the name, you even know where this thing is coming from. Instead of them to have cleaned this out, it becomes a problem. And based on that, we have a problem. And we've told you change it, you won't. The bottom line is that when you look at the reasons why we have stopped going to IPAC, they are very easy. Call us to a table, let us meet. Some of the ideas we are giving you will be helpful. You are thinking of just one aspect of it. There are many. We gave 34. Pick 1, 2, 3, say we need to change and get it done so that there will be peace and quiet. But you decided that the largest opposition party, you will not listen to anything they have to say. The same way the government will not listen to anything anybody else has to say. I have the power. It's my way or no way. And it's the same attitude they take into parliament, which they had before. And because they cannot change that attitude, everything in parliament is going awry. Because you want to say, behave as if we are in government, our way or no way. And parliament is saying, nah, lie. Doesn't work like that. We are okay, we are even. The numbers are. So now you are doing all kinds of shenanigans to get people out of parliament. If you have this type of posture, and that posture is now being taken by an independent electoral commission in inverted commas, we are advising you, you don't want to take it. Why? What will be the net result? The net result is, look, you are coming to the Kenyan election soon. How many days has it been? Have you seen the electoral commissioner running to give results? There is more volatile. If you just rush and give and see what will happen in that town, you have to have a basis to justify it. But here, we all have to give results. In the end, you gave us 60 separate results. The first one you gave, you off came and officially told us that it was wrong. We have to change it. Okay. It shows that you, the EC yourself, you have problems. You go and do a by-election and people are shot, people are this, and you say the by-election was perfect, it was okay. You do an election and people die 8. You say that, oh, it was a good election. Never in the history of our country. And this is the EC that conducted the election. Listen sometimes. We are all together. The posture is wrong. Okay. Having the national ID as the sole identification is going to create problems in this thing, because the body that is, if the EC is the one doing it, and they say we are going to ensure, you are relying on a third party to ensure, and the third party has got issues that you cannot control, you cannot finance. Issues of the mass registration or the district registration is there. This CI is raising all manner of issues.
Okay, Mr. Segbefia, you'd have to leave it there. And
no problem. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much. Let me just say a big thank you to Shine FM in Akachi. They are on 96.9. Hills FM in Adaklo 91.7. Nyawasi Radio Kete Krachi 89.7. Sela Radio in Dabala. They are on 97.1. Diamond FM in Tamale 93.7. Bewa Radio in Yendi on 106.5. Radio Kitawon Saboba on 95.7. And Benya FM in Elmina 105.7. Cape FM in Cape Coast on 93.3, Global FM in Ho 105.1, Zebs FM 95.9 in Zebila, and True FM 92.5 in Ade. So those are the stations currently tuning to us. We say a big thank you to you for offering us your platform. This is the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live from the studios of Pan-African Television, on Pan-African Television, and on Radio Gold. A big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM. Ellen.
Yes. The EC, I believe, is acting on the National Identification Register Regulations 2012, Section 7. I think Section 7J. That tells us what the Ghana card was going to be used for. So if you indulge me, let me start from that. I think that is the LI 2111, and it was passed in 2012. It tells us the mandatory use of the national identity card. And it tells us that
Ellen, a moment. I'm being told I have to take a break. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hello, information.
Madam,
Me, I still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, hadn't they?
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I even called. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco Fast Floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to say guy.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. And
Very much for staying with us. Ellen was on the floor on the matter of Ghana card as a sole identification document for voter registration.
I was saying that in 2012, we all passed a law. Well, our parliament passed a law that told us that the Ghana card was going to be used mandatorily for the following things: application for and issuance of a passport, application for and issuance of a driver's license, opening of individual or personal bank accounts, purchase of insurance. Just a minute, I decided to mess up. But then going forward on the J, it said going to get voters ID. So I believe, with all due respect, and I will not go political on this matter, that the EC is just following up on what has been happening with Ghana card throughout. Now you need your Ghana card, I believe, to be able to get a passport. I tried getting a passport for my children, and they asked me to bring my Ghana card to show, because when I was getting the Ghana card, if I remember, I stated the number of children I had, their ages, and all that. So now you need a Ghana card to get your passport. You need a Ghana card to get your driver's license. You need a Ghana card. We are in the process to get a SIM card. So getting or making the Ghana card the sole card to get voter's ID, I think it's in the right setting. The issue now is we are going for an election in 2024. We are about 2 years ago. Can the EC assure all of us that by 2024, anybody who is eligible and wants to vote, let us also remember that it's not all Ghanaians who want to vote. So you cannot force somebody to go for a voter's ID card if the person is not interested. I saw some data from the EC earlier this week where they were telling us that in 2020, if you remember, when we all had to go back again and go and get our voter's ID, the people who came with their Ghana card were about 70%. Those who came with people vouching for them was about 20-something%, and those who came with their passport was less than 10% to come and get the voter's ID, meaning that 70% of the people who were eligible to vote in 2020 actually voted or got their cards with the Ghana card. And if I remember, they were telling us that now we do not all have to go and line up again and go and get a voter's ID. They already have, if you voted in 2020, then it means they have your biometrics, they have everything already. And per the new LI that I think they have placed in Parliament, if I remember, they said we're going to allow you to come and get the voter's ID till 50 days till the election. Meaning as you turn 18, the new voters, you can be getting it till 50 days before December 7th. All these measures, I believe, are excellent measures. We are trying to move away from so many identity cards. Sometimes it got up here. At a particular point in your life as an adult in Ghana, you have your National Health Insurance card. You have your driver's license if you drive. You have your SNIT card if you are a SNIT person. You have your National Health Insurance card. You would have your passport. You would have, there are some companies, you have to have your ID card. So you go around carrying all these IDs just to get certain services. So the idea of the Ghana card for me is excellent. I believe the EC should look into the issues, and then as I heard from Parliament that they've been asked to take the LI back again and go and work on it and take into considerations the feelings or the comments of the committee that worked on it. So they'll bring it again. Whilst they are doing that, I'd want to ask the NDC, as much as you do have a problem with the EC, whether imagined, whether real, some of us feel that it is just imagined because you are trying to cover up your inefficiencies in the 2020 elections. Why up till now we still don't know your collated results? Perhaps you have now collated it and we don't know. And all the issues that went along with it. I think it's high time. 2 years is enough to throw a tantrum. 2 years is enough to, as we say in Twi, you have said what you want to say. I think it's high time you go back to the IPAC meetings and let us all start getting ready for election 2024. As much as we intend to break the 8 with all the issues going on in our party, I believe that you also have a lot of issues going on in your party that you need to solve. And as political parties, leading political parties in Ghana, we need to put our act together. I would definitely not be too excited that after 2024, any one of the political parties have to go again to the court, debating or disputing the electoral results. It takes time, it takes energy, it just makes everybody uncomfortable. So for me, I would want us to have a voters register that will give us the exact votes that everybody got, and we are done. After January 7th, we are done. We swear in whoever is president and we go. Hopefully, it is the next MPP president, as the president said. Hopefully, yes, that's what I said. We are working very hard at getting to that. And we would want you to accept defeat in good faith. We want you to be able to show us your collated results. That shows that you got this and you accept that you have lost. And it will be a very good atmosphere for all of us. Until we get there, I believe the NDC should start packing their tools and going back to the IPAC meeting. Because if they were there, all these concerns that they were raising with this new LI, I'm sure they could have discussed it with the EC. And if the EC didn't agree, then they can tell us, but you were not there. You were not there. You were not part of the decision making. So the only place that you can't be part of the decision making is when they brought it to Parliament. And I think that is unfair. They are depriving all of Ghana their expertise, which I know they do have. So they should go back to the elections. And while they are at it, they should also get their act together. They can talk all they want. They can get the MPP all we want. But at least we are done with our internal elections, no matter what it is. You are still struggling to do yours. And I think you are being late. Anyway, it's none of my business. But as I said, it is good for democracy if they are also in good shape. So as for the NIA cards and the Electoral Commission, I believe it's much brouhaha over nothing. We have 2 solid years to get a Ghana card if you are interested in voting. That said, I'll move to the NIA. As for me, I've been on the NIA's case for a few weeks now. As much as they are complaining that they are not getting their budgets, and they are complaining about all the things that is going on, I believe now they said they are in every district. People are coming to register and get their cards. But I have an issue with their staff. I have an issue with some of their attitude. I have an issue with, I don't know how they're even rolling out the second phase of the program. You go to certain places and even your name, I have come with my name, I have spelt it for you, and you are printing it out and it's wrong. And now you put the customer or you put the person in trouble again, going through the process of trying to correct my name. It's no fault of mine. So the NIA is having a lot of issues. Now you have registered over how many? 17 million people, and you have over 5 or 6 million cards sitting in your offices. You are supposed to have all the data, know who they are, and send it to them or call them to come and pick it up. What's up with them? So the NIA as an agency, I believe the way they are running their things, honestly, some of us are not too happy with them. But you cannot blame the EC for the faults of the NIA. The EC is doing its job. So let's get the EC to do their job and let's focus on the NIA. I've heard their CEO going around explaining things. I've heard their PRO also going around saying a lot of things. It doesn't wash. They should get the job done. Even if your money is half, the little that you have printed, make sure you print it right. Get the information right. And let the people come and pick it. We still have a deficit of 3 million people who haven't been able to get their cards. NIA should up their game, honestly. Apart from that, I feel that we should leave the EC alone. The EC is following the rules that we all set for them in 2012, and they are just doing their job. It is NIA that we have to be on. And let me be honest, some of us are not too happy with what they are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll come to Dzifa shortly, but Dennis Akwete says, I don't have a problem if the NDC should use only, if the EC should use only the Ghana card in its continuous registration process. This is because, though by law the EC is supposed to carry out continuous registration, it is unable to do so because of inability to engage political parties' representatives in the process, as has been the convention to ensure credibility of the process, as nobody knows when one will turn 18 and walk into any EC office to be registered. Hence, that when we question the credibility of the Ghana card, it will cure the credibility problem in the continuous registration process in the absence of political party representatives. However, it will be bad and dangerous to extend the Ghana card as sole document, minus the guarantor system, to a major limited registration exercise if the data does not prove that all Ghanaians of voting age at any registration point in time obtained the Ghana card. Shalom. Well, there's also, okay, so on the whole issue of, okay, this is Elder Glad. My question regarding the People's Representative Law and the registration of Ghana card for Ghanaians resident, okay, how do we get the voter ID and the Ghana card? Thank you. That's coming from Seldel Glad, who is sending that from Germany. This one says, do you know that the original sample of the NIA card is totally different from the ECOWAS identity card were issued? So for me, what I have is ECOWAS card and not Ghana card. That's Salam Atuak from Boku. There is also Kojo Chomwafo. Mr. Sena, what is going on is very simple to comprehend. The NPP EC, led by the appendage in Mensa, are trying to rig the election ex ante. They know that rigging exposed by bludgeoning the Ghanaians into submission won't work. So they will make sure people who may vote against them don't register at all. After all, Akufo-Addo has vowed to leave an MPP government in place so that he and his gang of, can get away with their loot. I am loving Ellen's nonchalant, almost dismissive stance on very valid concerns. If IPAC was just an I say you do rubber stamp talk shop, will we have transparent ballot boxes amongst other changes to our voting system? When you are back in opposition exactly 2.5 years, I'll remind you, bookmark this date. That's Kojo Chumbwafo. There's AK Kwasi says, Sena, please tell Ellen that NDC going to IPAC does not make any difference because the MPP woman-led EC, Madame Jean Mensah, has become a dictator to the extent that she does not accept nor consider any suggestions made by NDC. So what's the point in going there only for MPP has to decide for us. Dzifa.
Sena, thank you very much. I was happy when Ellen said it was none of her business whether we are delaying or not. I'm glad in fact, if she hadn't said it, I would have said it. And that's fine. So let's just go to the matter of the Ghana card. Sena, it's very sensitive. Growing up as a young girl, I learned even in school that the right to vote was one of the basic rights of every citizen that has clocked 18 years. Whether you are handicapped, you are blind, you have any physical defects, anything. Once you are a citizen above the age, 18 and above, you can vote. And in many parts of our rural areas and in our, remote areas in Ghana, you'd realize that voting is something they take very personally because that is when they feel like they are part of the nation. They feel like they are counted. They feel involved. Because everything going on in the cities and in parliament and in, well-structured places, it looks like they are not part. So when it comes to voting, my voice is heard. It is very important to them in the rural areas. In fact, whether you campaign to them or not, they will come out to vote. So that should tell you the importance of voting to people who are less privileged. Now, let us remind ourselves and be very honest with us. I'll just borrow Ellen's words. I'm not trying to be political. I do not intend to be political about this. But the EC, under the governance or the governance of Jean Mensa, has deliberately and continues to deliberately suppress the rights of voters. Initially, I wanted to use the word, steal voters' rights. But let's say suppress the rights of voters. Way back from this issue of a birth certificate, we know what it means to be a citizen. And we know that you are noted or known to be a citizen right from birth. That is the basic identification document all over the world. You are born, you have your name, where you were born, where you come from, the names of your parents, and it is all there. And nothing can be more authentic than that. Because that is the beginning, that is the inception of your identity as a human being, your birth certificate. Nothing can be more authentic than that. It was so strange when all of a sudden the EC decided that no, we cannot use your birth certificate as identification. For what reason? Is it not authentic? Can we not trust it? Is it because it's a paper? What is the problem around birth certificate not being able to guarantee your citizenship? So now, I'm sure somebody else from the EC would have to come and explain to me what exactly they meant by that. And so it went to court and then, skirmishes happened. I don't want to talk too much when it's about court. Skirmishes happened. That's how I like to say it. And then it wasn't used. But as Uncle Alex said, the same birth certificate could be used into making a passport or acquiring a passport that is recognized internationally. But locally here, and when I say internationally, I mean because we respect or uphold international documents more, because we know that when it goes out there, it interacts with other citizens or other countries, and the authenticity of national IDs or national documents are top-notch. But locally, we can't use it to vote. Fundamental right of every citizen in Ghana. We cannot use that to secure a voter's ID. That is said. So that matter is gone. Now we have started this issue with Ghana card. Let's not forget the fact that this SIM registration is what is motivating a lot of people to do the Ghana card. If you ask me, the education of our Ghana card is very little. If you go into rural areas and remote areas right now, the reasons why people are coming out in excess to do their Ghana card is because of the limited, the voters the SIM registration that is about to end very soon. That is the reason why people are going out for the Ghana card. So obviously, even with that, there is so much rush, so much demand, and very little supply. Very little supply because of the quality of people who are handling the entire program. Very little supply because the entire program is being rushed. And it makes me feel there is an agenda behind it. It's as simple as that. We all would admire the idea that one single card can run or can be used for everything. Modernize the way we use our identification cards. We wish maybe a passport could have done that. Let's say passport aside and then Ghana card. But how many Ghanaians in your village, Sena, let me use you as an example so that you wouldn't say in my village, where is Joje? Probably I am assuming that people haven't done their Ghana cards when they have done their Ghana cards. Let me ask yours. How many people in your village have done their Ghana cards? There are people in your village who do not care about SIM registration, who have not even heard what they claim Ghana card will be used for. So you are telling me that on the day of voting, we go to my village, Jojakuli, and then there is the, the whole setup for voting there. And then my grandparents and my family members get there and they cannot vote for the first time in history because they don't have a Ghana card. It's a process. For a while now, you have introduced Ghana card. And the idea is that it will be a single card that serves different purposes. Brilliant. Until we get to the extent where 80% of people, or let's say 90% of people have their Ghana cards, there should be another alternative so that you don't infringe on the rights of people. So that when I have decided to vote, you do not tell me because I do not have a Ghana card, I cannot vote. Let's remember how much it costs to get a Ghana card right now. If you don't know, let me tell you, 350 cedis if you want to get a Ghana card within 2 weeks. If not, you have to leave your job and spend 2 weeks, day by day, 2 continuous weeks. That is 14 continuous days at the registration centers, going and coming, being tossed, before eventually they tell you, okay, go, you have been registered now, go and come back later for your card. And God is your savior if you find the card, because it will be added to a heap of cards that cannot be found. So if you are somebody who doesn't want to waste time and doesn't have money, you are lost. If you have money, little money, you would have to spend 350 cedis to be able to acquire a Ghana card. That is how much you will spend. And let me remind you today that 350 cedis is someone's salary. A whole month's salary, 350 cedis. So when people are just seated out there and feel that this is a normal process, when Amma will say that, oh, you have 2 years to secure a Ghana card, trust me, if we want this thing to work and work right and not be something that will end up in the drains again, we should be concerned about how everybody will sincerely have an opportunity to get a Ghana card. And if that will take 4 years, if that will take 5 years, and it will materialize after these years, it is fine. They say they have points, or just a registration points at every district. It is Accra that I can move from this district to the next, from my Yawaso district to maybe Ablekuma, easily. With 5 cities, I may be able to get there. Are you aware the distance, the geographical distance when it comes to districts in the northern region? In the Volta, no, you are aware, Sena, in the Volta region, in the northern region, upper east, upper west, Bronga Hafo, Sunyane. The people in the villages, the people who we claim we want to better their lives, who have to travel miles. And it's not as if when you are traveling, you get there and you'll be able to receive your Ghana card. Let's just be reasonable. Let's just, if we really have the concerns of the people at heart, let's just be reasonable, Sena. It's as simple as that. Let's take our time and make sure everyone, even after the same registration, everyone gets the opportunity to get a Ghana card. And as Ellen was saying, let's restructure this whole NIA and the people who are taking care of the registration program. It is appalling. When you go to Elwak, an eyesore totally. You will go there, I have already done mine, but I hear the attendants there deliberately stress you so that at the end of the day you have very little choice. In fact, you have no choice but to pay something for them to do this. People are chopping money from it. People are enriching their pockets with it, and there is no supervision whatsoever because the demand is so high for the Ghana card, so people are misbehaving. If there is no agenda behind, because I am informed and I'm aware that there is a very special, let me use that, agenda of this current EC under Jean Mensa. We know what she's capable of doing. These days she hides her face because she's so ashamed of the outcome of events. No one has done that before. But if there is no agenda, in quotes, let's take our time and do it beautifully so that it serves the purpose that it's supposed to serve. So no one is saying that it's not going according to something. Let us take our time and do it. And the 2 years minimum, if they have gone to the grounds and investigated to see the places that have not been reached, they wouldn't sit here and assume that by 2024, everyone will be ready to use Ghana card as the sole identification card to vote. It is important that we sink it down their heads. Someone will say gumption, for them to allow the voters card to be used alongside. In any case, what is the voters card going to do? So that means that there is not going to be any voters card anymore. We are going to throw it away come 2024. A lot of people still have their cards. Please, let us allow people to use their form of identification. And then relax, take our time and do it well. They said it must be done well. And then in 5 years' time, when you call for us to use Ghana card as a source of identification for voting, we know that 90% of the population have already done it. And it will make sense. Who will be able to go against that? Sena, that is what I'll leave you with today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I come to Mr. Pratt, there's Sedu Kpebu who says it's quite interesting how the MPP with the connivance of the EC is pushing the medieval class idea of class society in the attempt to disenfranchise mostly the working class of our citizens. Right from the day they assumed office, the Jean Mensa-led EC has sought to fully implement the obnoxious idea that only property owners of the elite class are entitled to determine who governs this country, and they are doing so. I believe on behalf of the President and the MPP, until every Ghanaian has a Ghana card, this mindless and thoughtless move by the EC must be resisted. This is a test case for the NDC. That's said people. This government has a very canny trick. They create chaos from policy implementation in order to make money from it. A classic example is the Ghana card and SIM registration processes. Mr. Pratt.
I think the issues are so very simple. First, nobody is opposed to the use of the Ghana card as a valid proof of Ghanaian identity. Nobody is opposed to that. What there is opposition to is the claim or the request that it should be the only proof of Ghanaian nationality. That is what there is opposition to. And indeed, it does make a lot of sense. To obtain the Ghana card, I mean, Alex has already explained that in detail. To obtain the Ghana card, you can get 2 persons in your community to vouch for you as a Ghanaian. Then the card is issued to you. And the EC is saying that the card that you get as a result of 2 persons from your community vouching for you is the only card you can use to register as a voter. And that those 2 persons cannot vouch for you as a Ghanaian to get onto the EC register. I mean, this completely defies logic. There's no sense in it. You can use your passport to get your national ID card, but you cannot use your national ID card to get onto the voters register, but you cannot use your passport. I mean, the whole thing is just simply illogical. But I'm not even interested in all of that. I mean, over the week, during the week, I heard the argument in favor of using the national ID card. And one of the arguments simply says that, look, when it was time to register, to obtain the ID card, the NDC asked its members not to undertake the exercise. And right now, there are only few people who don't have a national ID card. And they say there are about 3 million they don't have the ID card, and that they are mostly NDC people because they listen to their general secretary. Listen to this argument very well. So if you have an electoral commission, which assumes that there are 3 million people who cannot vote because they do not have the national ID, and that all these 3 million people are NDC. Master, are you listening very carefully? All these 3 million people are NDC people. And that they are going to conduct the elections in such a way that these 3 million people who are NDC cannot vote. What kind of election would that be? Sena, what kind of election would that be? That the EC, on the assumption that the 3 million people who do not have these cards are all NDC, or mostly NDC, that we will organize the election so that NDC loses 3 million of its potential votes. And they make these arguments, with plain face and in public. They are not even ashamed. It is striking. And then they say, oh, how many people will not be able to vote? These 3 million, maybe about 2 million of them will get the cards. Only 1 million. The EC has a responsibility to ensure that every Ghanaian who qualifies to vote and wants to vote can vote. That's the mandate of the EC. So for me, this matter is very clear and simple. There's nothing more to say. I finish.
Thank you.
Can I just make a clarification of my sister's statement? Just let the EC has 2 standing committees. One is the legal committee, and the other is the technical committee. The legal committee historically deals with the drafting of CIs and issues. We didn't boycott that committee. The EC, quite rightly, wrote to us and told us that there's a CI that is going to go into place, and therefore the composition is made up of 5 people. We should bring a name or names to be representative on that committee dealing with the CI. We sent the 2 names. Hudu Yaya, our former General Secretary and Counsel, Lawyer Hudu Yaya, and then Amate. These were the 2 names we sent. The EC then set a date for a first meeting. Hudu Yaya was called. Then he got a second call again saying, no, because of certain things, there's going to be another date set. And that was the last we heard on that matter. No call, no letter, and then we heard that the matter was going to the committee in Parliament. The advantage this time, and we are grateful to all parties and the Speaker, is that they did pre-laying. Normally, if they just lay 21 days, you are finished. So they did pre-laying, which is a format that Parliament always or normally uses in circumstances like this, so that the T's can be crossed and the I's dotted, so to speak. And it's at the pre-laying stage that all the concerns that we have been talking about were raised. And the EC has been good enough to say, okay, we'll take it and go and look at it again. So that is the background to it. But this could have been looked at earlier if they had allowed that meeting, that the subcommittee, to look at it and take it. So even though we have boycotted IPAC, we haven't boycotted the committee. And as for the reasons for going to this, we'll talk about that another day, but that committee that deals with it, the legal committee, we haven't boycotted. Okay. But we were not invited to any of the meetings.
Okay. Let me just do this is a message from Dr. Akufo-Addo. Sena, the NIA revealed that they are short of cards because the supplier has not been paid for cards already supplied. I think the NIA has admitted that themselves on a couple of occasions. Masola probably says the MPP wants to rig the 2024 elections with the Ghana card because they know they have become unpopular and they will be kicked out of power. But they should be rest assured that no matter what they will do, they will be booted out of power. We have some 17 minutes. I believe I can take quick talks on the Kenyan elections. In fact, I've been looking for results on Kenyan elections. It's hard to come by. In fact, when you look at the major news network, it is only a website called Daily Nation who are projecting 49.91% of the votes for William Ruto, vice president. And then Raila Odinga, who is a veteran in this game, 49.41%. Like in our elections, you have to get 50% plus at least one. So from the way their projections, if it is anything to go by, it looks like it may be going for a runoff. But we are waiting on the Kenyan election board to make a decision. This one, I think I can stand from Ellen.
Yes. I think it's a very interesting, what do I say, election that is going on in Kenya. Hopefully, and so far, I think I haven't heard of much violence. It was an MP, if I heard the news right, one of the MPs in a certain, no, he won, but he actually shot the bodyguard of his opponent in one of the provinces, and I heard the police are looking for him, but he's nowhere to be found in Kenya. And from what they are saying, he has even crossed the border into Tanzania or something. I don't know. I think that news flash went through into my head. But now he hasn't been sworn in. So until any being sworn into, you have to appear personally. So I'm wondering how this particular MP is going to go about it. But I mean, when you've seen previous Kenyan elections and all the things that have gone on, including the people that have been killed in previous elections, I believe that this one was, at least we are not hearing about the violence. And when you're looking at the way it's going, 49 point something, I think we can all safely assume that there will be a runoff, and still pray and talk to our Kenyan brothers and sisters, if they are listening to us, that just like how they have equitably distinguished themselves this year, they should still continue. It doesn't matter the outcome, and let's have some peace on the African continent. This is all I'll say about it. But the rest of my time, I want to touch on an issue I have been on this week, and I'll use the opportunity. I believe it's a large enough opportunity to talk about it.
You have to be very brief.
Tech.
Okay.
University,
University of Science and Technology.
This issue about this rape, it's bothering me, it has bothered me, and it will continue to bother me. We had last week or last 2 weeks, 2 cases within a week of girls. One was gang raped by 6 guys, another was 2 guys including a policeman, and the allegations that there's a third one that is being managed. My issue with it is, yes, they brought in the police, they brought in everything, that they are dealing with it. But their PR, he's on and about fighting people on social media for saying that there's a third one that is being managed. Seriously, sir, at this point, you are not interested in what somebody is saying on social media. You are interested in bringing the culprits to book, getting parents to settle, and getting the victims to get themselves back together. To have 2 rape cases, and not just rape cases, gang rape of your students in a week, tells us that there's something wrong. And I cannot, as a reasonable woman in Ghana, just keep quiet about this. It irks me, and it's really, you know, a woman. Because I've been a student before, and if the young ladies are not feeling safe on campus, and I go to supposed boyfriend, and he's able to tie me in his room according to what they said in court, and he goes out and goes to call people. Can you imagine? And all of it, you are telling us that you are fighting with people on Facebook for saying that there's a third one that is being managed. Seriously, I think the PRO should get his act together. Parents are not too happy, and a lot of us are not too happy with that situation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Segbefia.
Well, as a prosecutor in my previous life, rape, once proven, and when it's gang rape, it's very difficult to have a defense. It's one thing to say I'm in a room and the girl, I didn't rape her. You go through this thing. But when there are multiple partners, it's highly unlikely to have consent. It makes it more difficult to show that there was consent. So I'm clear in my mind that it's not something you negotiate. If you prove it or it exists, there should be no negotiation or settlement anywhere. You prosecute. If not, so people don't get the message that it should stop. We have a lot of it's not accepted culture. I don't want to say cultural norms. So it's not a cultural norm, but it's this idea that something should always be settled in a family way, and let's go and say that. There are some too that shouldn't. I'm clear in my mind about that. Okay. Because if this was my daughter, nobody can come and sit in front of me and ask me a question. We will prosecute you and see the end of it. So it's not. They should all this. If they get the people, just prosecute. Just prosecute the case and let it go. So that would be my comment on the issue. Also the Kenya, yes, the Kenyan issue. I keep going back to the fact that, you know, when you have a delicate situation, don't drag it for too long, but take your time to get the right result, or one that you can stand and justify, because it is on a knife edge. The closer the election, the more delicate the situation. So double check your figures, get as much as possible, because you only have to get 2 or 3 places with a problem and the whole thing will explode again. So this idea of them taking their time to ensure, even though some people say because of the delay this happened, everybody knows, get your figures in order and then come out that this is what you have. And once you can stand by it and explain, you will have no problem. But if you rush it and you make a mistake, can you imagine this in Kenya? The person will come out and say, oh, I got it wrong. I'm coming to change figures. All hell is going to break loose because they are extremely violent when it comes to matters of this nature. And Odinga has been fighting this for a long time. But from what I also gather, it's possibly, as you said, looking like a runoff will take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Dzifa.
So, Sena, thank you very much. In 2007, I mean, what we saw in Kenya was terrible. Thousands of people dying. I mean, elections is always brutal in some countries, especially in Africa. People die, but what we saw in Kenya in 2007 was severe. And so the first day of the election day, when I had not had a single issue of violence or major issue of violence, I was excited because I felt, okay, Africans are gradually getting better in terms of election violence. But as this issue is running into, getting into a runoff, which is very likely from what we are seeing, it's not as if anyone has even crossed 50, not talk about 50.1. It looks like it will be a do and die case. Once it becomes, they enter into the runoff, it will be do and die. And that is what my fear is. Because that is what might trigger some sort of violence that we may not be able to handle. I'm saying we as though I'm a Kenyan, but I am an African. And this concerns me a lot. I was in Kenya a few months ago. And I mean, when you ask anyone what you think about the election, everybody was saying, oh, Raila Odinga will take it because he's been there for so long. You know, just like they said, Nanado, oh, waprache, yeah, famano. And because he had the support of the current president as against the actual vice president there. So I thought it was going to be one-touch win. I must say that William has done so well because I didn't think he was even going to, you know, face up to Raila like the way he has done. He's done so well, but I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for the runoff and hoping that Kenyans will keep the peace that they have been keeping since the election day and not let anything trigger serious violence, because when that happens, I don't know. And you know what? A lot of people are always insecure about runoffs because they think that any engineering could happen at the stage and the government in power won't allow this. So many things. There's so much insecurity whenever we enter into a runoff. So I am really keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that Kenyans will desist from any sort of violence when or if they go into a runoff. So I I would allow my boss to speak because I like to hear him speak a lot about, you know, these African issues. So I'll just be quick about that. I'm done.
I never knew Mr. Pratt was your boss.
No way.
I was shocked. Mr. Pratt.
But look, the important thing about this election is not so much the result. It's the strange behavior of Uhuru Kenyatta. Strange, absolutely strange and irrational behavior of Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta went into an election and he told the people of Kenya that he was the best candidate and that Raila Odinga was a danger for the Kenyan people. He cannot manage the affairs of Kenya. And he actually chose William Ruto as his vice and said that the two of them were best placed to manage the affairs of Kenya. Then somehow, somewhat, the same Uhuru Kenyatta now says that the best person to manage the affairs of Kenya is Raila Odinga. And that people should vote against the person that he chose as vice president. In any case, when he went into the competition with Raila Odinga, they went with two competing manifestos. Is Uhuru Kenyatta now telling us that the vision of Raila Odinga is superior to the vision of his own party? I mean, these African leaders, what is wrong with them? And sometimes it gets to the point that we think that they actually think that the countries they govern belongs to them, is in their back pocket. That's what Uhuru Kenyatta is demonstrating in Kenya. I can't believe it. And then, so very strangely, maybe not so very strangely, somehow strange, a combination of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta is facing this massive challenge from a nobody like William Ruto. Don't forget that Uhuru Kenyatta's father, Jomo Kenyatta, was the founder of Kenya, the founding father of Kenya, the first president of Kenya. And Raila Odinga's father was a key participant in the struggle for national independence and actually became vice president or prime minister at some point. Now you have William Ruto who says that he's just a hustler. And just the hustler is giving them this headache. Look, it is clear that the Electoral Commission of Kenya hasn't got the results it wants to announce. That is why there's a delay. It's not because they are being careful or anything. They haven't got the results they want to announce. That's why there's a delay. If the delay is about making sure that everything is correct and so, fine. But my take is that they haven't got the results they want to announce. And they should be very, 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 very careful. Because they could set Kenya on fire. The will of the people must prevail at all times. If the people want William Ruto should become the next president of Kenya. Finish. So the delay really, this delay is unpardonable. The elections took place on Tuesday, 9th. Today is what day? No,
today's
13th. Saturday. From Tuesday to Saturday, they cannot announce the result. Abba. Why?
Maybe the current president wants to be deputy. You know, as for them, they can. He wants to be deputy president to.
After 2 terms of president.
As for them, the understanding of democracy.
And this runoff is expensive.
Very expensive.
The runoff, even if we go for a runoff, it is still expensive. If Ruto has won, declare him and let's get over with it and move on. You understand?
He's the lead now.
He is.
49.4, isn't that what you?
Yeah, 49.9. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they say
9. Yeah.
If they say they are all 49%, 49%.
Yeah.
But if they say they haven't finished counting, it means that the 49% really is not the final, you know.
Yeah.
And these African leaders, you can't understand them. African leaders, you can't understand them.
Deputy President.
You know, all of a sudden, they want to extend their term. You know, they do all kinds of strange things. But see, they do these things because they know we will allow them to do them. If the African people were angry enough, if we, the African people, said that, look, to hell with you, we would not allow you to do as you please with our elections, with our economy and so on, they will think twice before they act. We have allowed them.
Thank you. In fact, William Ruto's UDA currently controls Parliament by 24 seats.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So they control Parliament.
He's taking control of Parliament.
So I don't know. In that situation, I don't know why you would like to be president in a Parliament controlled by...
Masa, have you forgotten the Ghanaian situation?
Well, thank you. Well, that concludes today's show. But
take the Ghanaian situation.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, it's Facebook. If Facebook is to be believed, today is the birthday of Nana Dakwa JC. Used to work at Radio Gold, now at Max. And a happy birthday to you if today is your birthday. Same with Thomas Soso, who used to work with our marketing department at Radio Gold. Belated happy birthday to you. There are several people to say belated happy birthday to. One of them is Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jnr, who celebrated his birthday earlier in the week. Justice Apia also celebrated his birthday earlier in the week. There are several others who celebrated their birthday earlier in the week. Thank you very much for making time to join us on the show for today. And a big thank you to Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jnr, who is the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Dzifa Tegah, join us. Thank you. And thank you to Loyal Segbefia for joining us today. And of course, wonderful to see Elenama. What is it Dako? Deko? Yeah, who is difficult to? Yeah. When I see double A, my pronunciation is different from what she just said.
True.
That's why I'm saying
name,
that.
That's true.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. From what I was taught in school in Sugakope Early Primary and early JSSA, I have pronounced it differently. My name is Sena Nombo. It was wonderful to have your company for the past 3 hours. It's a pleasure knowing you are doing the listening and also watching us live on Pan-African television, several affiliates across the country, and live on Radio Gold. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. Have a lovely weekend and have a fruitful week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and